Word has gotten out that Trian Partners and Nelson Peltz now have a $2.5 billion stake in the Walt Disney Company, which represents about 5 times the amount of shares they had last time they tried to engage in a proxy fight in order to get access to the boardroom of the Walt Disney Company. While the Wall Street Journal has run several articles saying that Trian Partners is gunning for seats, there have been no official announcements from Walt Disney or Trian Partners about the upcoming boardroom battle. Let's talk about that here on That Park Place. Hello, this is Jonas J. Campbell, and today we're going to talk about the mysterious man with absolutely no media experience, Nelson Peltz. About this time last year, he was in the middle of pursuing a board seat, that time under CEO Bob Chapek. Yes, that's right, we're about 18 days from the anniversary of Bob Chapek leaving the Walt Disney Company in the middle of the night. By the time the annual shareholders meeting came around in the first quarter of 2023, now that would be the first 3 months of the year, not Disney's fiscal Q1, Nelson Peltz had disappeared into the wind, ending his proxy fight before it could become contentious on the call. That call, of course, became very contentious for other reasons, as people seemed to somehow get into that call and ask Bob Iger all kinds of questions that seemed to get him flustered, questions that seemed to paint Bob Iger in a bit of a bad light, and even Bob Chapek as well, of course. We talked about Nelson Peltz on a That Park Place live stream, and we happened to have a shareholder on the call, that in the form of Mexican Iron Man, and we wanted to get his expert opinion, as well as our esteemed panelists, on what's going on this time with Nelson Peltz and Trian Partners, and why the addition of what looks like more than $1 billion worth of shares from Ike Perlmutter might make things different this time around. Let's get into it.
I heard you say the other day, I think Culture knows how many shares I've got, but I got a block of these shares, and I should have just sat on them, but instead Mexican Iron Man in his infinite wisdom bought another block. I think they're all between 172 or 174 and 180 something. So I'm dollar cost averaging. So I'm also an expert in how to pick stock and lose money. Yep.
Now, on that note, I did want to ask you, how excited are you about your compatriot here, Mr. Nelson Peltz? He's come back into the game here. He personally hasn't announced his big move, but other people have announced it on his behalf. Right. It looks like Peltz has come back. He's secured some shares, and he's recently made the news. Oh, there is one clarification to the general narrative that's out there, that they've said that Perlmutter has added his shares onto Peltz's shares, and so nobody knows what the number is now. No, the number is still 33 million shares, that 2.5 billion number that is already out in the ether. Peltz already obtained those shares before he came back and started doing this. So the 33 million shares includes the Ike Perlmutter shares. Apparently, Perlmutter never got rid of his Marvel, the shares that he obtained when Marvel was sold to Disney. So right. Here we are. Mike, what do you think about this before we get into the story? What's your gut reaction on the Peltz situation right now?
Well, number one is I would say that in typical Game of Thrones type of fashion that winter is coming. Winter is coming. Peltz made moves before. He was ready to pull the trigger. Remember, he had his presentation out there. This is going back to the earlier part of the year. He has restored the Magic campaign. He had his proxy cards going out. He had done his internal meetings and all that, and he backed off because Iger promised cuts and promised, let's not forget, a dividend by the end of the year. Of course, Bob Iger is such a weasel. He didn't say whether that would be the end of the fiscal year or the end of the calendar year, but that's what he said. So what I think is that winter is coming. Forces are lining up, and the fiscal year is ended. For those who don't know, is that the Disney calendar business year ended on September 30th. We are now in the first quarter of the next fiscal year. When that earnings call happens a week from tomorrow, they're going to be reporting on the end of the fiscal year that ended September 30th. So what I'm hoping to hear from Bob are 3 things. I don't think I'm going to hear these 3 things, but this is what I would hope to hear. One, that a dividend is being declared and paid, not just declared, but declared and paid, because I haven't seen a dividend since
2020.
No, I think it was 2020 or 19.
I think if I had to guess, it would be 2019.
I think
the last dividend was 2019.
The last time I looked and remember, it was either November or December of 19. Anyway,
Yeah. Okay.
Number one, I want to hear a dividend declared and paid. Number two, I want to hear that this Comcast deal valuation is done and the financing is in place as to how it's going to get done, because I think that is a huge gray hurricane of a cloud on the offshore of Disney's future, so that all the other announcements that this company tries to make and do don't mean anything, because that's just hanging over like a bad weather storm. And number three, I want to hear that my boy Peltz and his team get between 1 and hopefully 3 board seats. Those are the 3 things I want to hear a week from tomorrow.
We have to remember too that the annual shareholder meeting is what, spring of next year, so it's coming up. If you don't answer these questions now and don't get ahead of these stories, they're going to be asked to you anyway.
Yeah, I want to get on that call. I'm going to try.
Oh man, exactly. I would love that. I would love that, and that would be the only reason that we would want you to miss the Valiant Renegade live stream, because man, that is a barn burner.
Hello, Bob. This is Mexican Iron Man, a shareholder from South Carolina, and I got to some question. I don't want to. I took my family to the theme park, and I don't know why, but hey, how come the princess she have beard and mustache? How come, Bob?
There it is, man. There it is.
I see. I figured it was going to be Roberto. ¿Dónde está mi dinero?
Yeah, Bob. ¿Dónde está mi dividend, bro?
Yeah. Exactly.
All right, just for everybody in the cheap seats here, there are 11 board members right now, and Peltz is gunning for 1 to 3 seats, and maybe he could get it with the clout that he has gathered in the rest of the shareholders right now, and the fact that Bob Iger has done nothing with this stock except push it down, which is amazing for Slick Rick over there, Bob Iger. And we're getting this slow drip of information. By the way, Robbie Whalen from the Wall Street Journal is doing a fantastic job of covering all of this Peltz and Perlmutter stuff. It makes me wonder what kind of access this guy has to get this kind of information. Just to make it clear, Trian's Disney stake, a holding that the Wall Street Journal previously reported is upward of 2.5 billion. Upward, that's always a funny number, a funny word. Includes shares held by Trian funds and outside investors. Perlmutter shares represent a majority of the stock that Trian currently holds. So it looks like that Trian has made some efforts here and some efforts on its own, but Perlmutter is the controlling factor here in giving all of that control over to Peltz. And Peltz has a great history in proxy fights. So it was an interesting little, I don't want to say it was a black eye when he backed off, because the dude got raised his investment by 30% before he pulled out the last time. And now he's back. And just to bring it back, there's a wonderful article over on Bounding into Comics that goes through the history of Peltz. Peltz wants things like a clear succession plan, which Bob Iger has failed at. He said that he originally wants the dividends coming back by 2025. So while Iger was saying he wants the dividend back by the end of this year, it's not good. Even if they do it, I don't think it's going to be much. Culture, Mike, do either of you think that the dividend is going to be anything more than a few pennies, even if they announce it?
I'm going to defer to Mike, but if I were going to guess what Mike has to say, I would say I don't think we'll see a dividend, but Mike, explain
I don't
why.
think we're going to see any of the 3 things that I said that I would hope happened.
Yeah.
I mean, frankly, I think he's just going to deflect and defer, and we're just like going to be watching like Floyd Mayweather, I think, kind of thing.
So let's say they do announce a dividend, but it's something tiny. Do you think that goes worse for them than if they just announce no dividend at all? If they announce that, we finally have a valuation on Comcast, which that is coming, that has to be coming. A valuation on Hulu, the 30% of Hulu held by Comcast.
I can see the dividend being announced only if this quarter is really kind of bad. If this quarter is really kind of shaky, I can see Iger wanting to turn that around just by announcing, hey, dividend is at this date, whatever, and so we can at least get that stock price up. Because I don't see the incentive to necessarily, dedicate a specific dividend right now if the stock isn't expected to go down.
Well, I would think it would be a large fiscal. It would be irresponsible, a fiscal irresponsibility if they were to grant a dividend. Now, Mike has suggested, I think, at least once that I've heard him say, or maybe twice, they probably, if Iger's truly desperate, he might declare a dividend but not pay it. I mean, because that's just, he would circumnavigate that. Bob is a politician at heart.
Yep.
And he was a terrible weather guesser. I mean, let's just be fair. So,
well, most of that job is just standing in front of there and reading what the cue cards tell you to read.
Yeah. Yep. Like I said, I'm very happy at what Peltz is doing, and I'm very disappointed at what Disney's been doing. So, I would like both of those things to change, so that everything is doing extraordinarily well. But we'll see.
Well, before we move on from Peltz, I just want to go down the list here. Develop an effective succession plan. Doesn't seem like that's happening. Align compensation with performance. That's a trouble spot. According to Bob Iger's book, which is him bragging about his career, there's a whole section in which he talks about Disney Plus, which, by the way, improved direct-to-consumer operating margins. That's also one of Peltz's initiatives here. Aligning compensation with performance. There is a section in which Iger convinces the board to let him tie executive performance to Iger's own judgment on how well the individual executive has performed, according to Bob Iger's metric, because he knew that Disney Plus was not going to be profitable. So it has to be an outside metric. So in order to retain people, you have to be in the good graces of Bob Iger. I'm wondering if that system is still on the board. If I got my seat on the earnings call, I think that would be the question that I would ask is, why do you think that it's okay for the CEO to personally set metrics instead of tying them to profitability? And why would you go into a system in which profitability is not the best metric for the growth of the company?
Well, Jonas, what you don't understand is that here at the Walt Disney Company, we tell great stories. And as a great storytelling company, we're focused on letting the creatives drive our storytelling. And storytelling, really, Jonas, Mr. Campbell, is at the heart of what we do at Disney. What we do is tell great stories.
I wanted to get.
That was
Can I get
beautiful,
some
Mike.
applause?
That was
Thank you.
beautiful.
Oh,
my
sorry.
goodness.
Do apologize.
No, I agree.
I got
They
entertained.
do tell great stories, and in the Southern sense, you're telling a story when you tell that story. You're trying to obfuscate. You're producing some bologna sausage there for all the shareholders to hopefully who bought their Disney stock because they wanted to own a piece of Disney, like it's the ultimate piece of merchandise. You want those people to.
When you look at the value, Jonas, over the last 100 years that we've created here at the Walt Disney Company, the next 100 years are going to be us telling great stories.
Very good.
Is that because you have a history of great storytelling, Bob?
That was your guest appearance of Bob Iger on That Park Place in the Morning.
No, that's exactly right, and they will say that because they say that at every single earnings call. And of course, fixing the creative engine of the company is also on Peltz's radar here. And this has been their only defense, by the way, to say that they need to fix the creative engine, and Peltz does not have media experience, and therefore he should not be on the board. Of course, for everyone who's not paying attention, Peltz is just like every other board member in that case. No board members besides Bob Iger have creative experience. They have manufacturing. They even have pharmaceutical experience. But no one on that board other than Iger has creativity experience. Vash, what were you going to say?
Well, I was just gonna. I wanted to ask Mike real fast because one of the things that Nelson Peltz really wants to adjust here going forward is to enhance accountability on capital allocation. It is weird how, and Jonas, if you could share my screen just for just a second here.
Yes, sir.
You'll see right here on Investopedia, you'll see this is a little out of date, to be honest, Q1 2022, but you can see the revenue and the operating income of the Disney Park Experiences and Parks segment. You can see how much annual revenue it accounts for and how much operating income or profit it accounts for on an annualized basis for Disney, right? But why, oh why, do we do this thing, we're going to send $30 billion a year, basically on average, towards their studio side of the business, and then say, well, you know, we're going to be dedicating $60 billion over a 10-year period to our Disney Parks Experiences and Product segment. That accounts for like, what, $6 billion a year. Why the disproportionate capital allocation in this segment? This makes no sense at all. Mike, could you clear this up in any way?
Here at the Walt Disney Company, Vash, we tell great stories. And our investment in capital is going to be in great storytelling. And we believe that Disney Plus is where we're going to tell great stories. And our studios have executives that tell great stories. And so our capital allotment is going to be focused on telling those great stories.
Oh my, that's perfect. Okay, so first of all,
how was that as an answer? First of all, that answer is accurate and satirical at the same time.
Yes,
right.
Yes,
the best satire is indistinguishable from the real thing. And man, you've
now,
done
Vash,
a great job.
We don't deny, Vash. It's obvious that when you look at our parks and experiences in our theme parks, we have people coming from around the world. But what they're coming to our parks for is to celebrate our great stories.
All right. You're getting a little repetitive there, just like Mr.
That's
Bob
what Bob
Iger.
does.
No,
You know what? If you clip Bob Iger the entire last year since he fired my boy Chapek, I'm not using any naughty words. You look at every interview and you stack them and clip them and watch them back to back to back to back to back. It's the same interview over and over and over again. And, and that is the problem with this problem, or the problem with this company that Vash, you're recognizing, you Culture, you Jonas, is that we never get real solutions to what we need to do. Like Culture and Vash just said, you can't be spending $10 billion over so many years when you're already planning on spending more. You can't be misallocating your capital in movies that don't make you any money just so you can say flash. That's the problem with this company. They want to be number one at the box office, but they don't care about profitability in the bank account.
It's ridiculous.
Yep. Well, thank you so much for listening to the discussion here on That Park Place. If you like this video, please consider hitting that like button. Of course, if you think this is the kind of conversation that would be of value to someone else, maybe consider sharing it out to them on social media. And of course, if you want more of this kind of content, subscribe to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com for all the news that should be fun. Don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.